Oh, so
All
good
right.
evening in Europe, and it's good to see so many names from the people from the community conference that we met in Washington and Munich, and good morning in the US. So as Balaji said, my name's Ian Howells, and I'm the CMO of Alfresco, and welcome to another Alfresco webinar. So when people join our community, they complete a survey on their stack preference for things like the operating system, the application server, database, portal, wiki, blog, and Office. And that allows us to prioritize the platforms that we support, and we publish that twice a year as the Open Source Barometer. And from that survey, a number of interesting things came out from the last 3 surveys. One is that a lot of users evaluate Alfresco on Windows, and in the second survey we found out that a lot actually evaluate on Windows on their laptop, but many more deploy on Linux. But from an architectural perspective, users want to have a Java architecture. From a client perspective, they want either Ajax or Flex, but many still want to work in Microsoft Office. So we believe there's a real demand for an alternative to SharePoint where people can work using Office, using a browser, using Ajax, but have a choice of using Windows or Linux, have a choice of using SQL Server or Oracle or MySQL, have a choice of using Tomcat or JBoss or BEA, because that's the way they can really drive down cost. So I think top of everybody's priorities today are how can I lower the cost of content management, but also how can I lower the cost of the stack to support content management. And also people already don't care much about 2-year ROI today. They care about having a very rapid rollout and a rapid return of the investment. So simplicity is critical to that. Also choice is critical because that really allows you to lower your total cost of ownership and to choose the lowest cost infrastructure, or reuse hardware that you've already got, reuse software that you've already got, and reuse the skills that you've already got. So we believe initial low cost of the ECM system, of the stack that supports it, and simplicity and choice are key today. And that's really why we believe the world does need an alternative to SharePoint. And today we're going to be focusing primarily on Alfresco Share. And many of you are at the community conferences where you saw Mike demonstrate that. And we'll be going through really a business scenario demonstration of that today. And as we said today, the focus is not so much on architecture, but around total cost of ownership and using Alfresco in a business scenario. So what I'd like to do today is give a brief background of the ECM market, evolution, some market dynamics and drivers, how we see the market segmenting, and then briefly talk about total cost of ownership. So next week there'll be a white paper available actually analyzing the total cost of ownership of traditional ECM systems and SharePoint and Alfresco, and you'll be able to see that in a 1,000-user configuration based on publicly available information, Alfresco in the first year is between 88 and 96% lower cost than traditional enterprise content management systems. Then we'll look at briefly what we mean by a SharePoint alternative, then focus upon Alfresco Share, and then the Alfresco protocol support, and briefly mention CMIS. Then we'll look at where you can go to get more information. So, as many of you know, what we believed when we started the company was that content management was way too expensive, and enterprise content management was way too complex to use, to roll out, and scale out. It was very proprietary and difficult and very expensive to integrate with other systems. So because of that, really only 5 to 10% of people really used enterprise content management, and nearly everybody else just used a shared file drive and email. That had major issues around productivity and compliance. And so what we'd like to look at is, in the next slide, is what do we mean by the issues around productivity and compliance? So specifically, this is from a productivity perspective. This is from an Accenture survey. In that, from a productivity perspective, people can't find documents. And in this survey, 45% of people said they had issues finding information about another part of the company. And people spend up to 2 hours a day searching for information. People can't find the right version. So 45%, 42% of the time, users accidentally found the wrong information at least once a week. So that's the kind of classic nightmare. You find it, and then there are 4 different versions of the document. You don't know which is the latest one. They found it easy to search for competitors' information than inside the company. This really shows that Google search traditionally is better on the web than your traditional search inside the organization. And often the information they find isn't very valuable. It's very difficult to find information because very often you have to go to multiple sources, on average 3. And information is not distributed in a timely or useful fashion. And we think about Web 2.0. It's really changed a lot of that. You think about some of the ways we can really simply contribute information in the Web 2.0 environment. We can comment on it. We can tag on it. And the way we can get notified of new information. So things like the Facebook feed isn't just like a simple RSS feed on content. It tells you about a team being formed, people joining the team, new documents, people changing those documents and commenting on them. That's really what we'd like to bring into the enterprise, to bring a Facebook into the enterprise to make people more productive. Equally as important, and particularly so today, and we believe it will become more and more important going forward, is compliance, is the shared file drive has no concept of an audit. It doesn't have version control. It doesn't have things like a document going through an approval and a review and a release cycle, knowing when something was approved, who approved it, when it was released, and when people should start using that new document. And these can maybe be regulated documents, for example, standard operating procedures that you only use after a certain date. Then maybe earnings releases that go out on a Monday morning at 8 a.m., but should not be released before that time. So you need that kind of content audit. Equally as important is an audit trail of when somebody is logged in and have they read information that they need to do their job. And that's really what we want to be able to put inside the shared file drive. So really the whole goal of Alfresco is, as we mentioned before, to make it dramatically lower cost, much faster, but really as simple as a shared file drive, taking that shared file drive interface and putting the compliance rules and the productivity around access and sharing into the system, but making it appear as simple as a shared file drive. And as I mentioned before, we really see the enterprise content management market almost changing more in the last couple of years than the last 8 to 9 years. Really, since the bubble happened, content management was really about large vendors buying up other smaller vendors